Hello and welcome to the interview. I'm speaking with Mr. Ravi Karunanayake, who really needs no introduction, so I'll just dismiss with the formalities. You were the youngest to be appointed to the national list in '94. And is that a record that still stands?
That's correct. At the moment, that stands.
How long have you been in politics?
17 years now.
It's
As
a
of
long
to
time.
date, it's 17 years.
Yeah. I mean, why did you first join? What made you join, actually?
This is what many ask. In a matter of fact, the reason I got thrusted into politics was that Lalit Athuratmudi was a relation of ours, and our family and theirs were very close-knit. And as a result, when the election campaigns were going on, we were assisting. Then Lalit had this, I must say, a phobia of bringing young politicians into the system.
This was under Premadasa.
Under Premadasa.
Yeah.
In the UMP,
Sure.
in the height of time.
Yeah.
But then owing to the political fallout and as a result, his untimely death, what happened was Srimani Athuratmudi carried out Lalit's wish.
Right.
So when there was opportunity, the party was formed. And when there was an election coming forward.
DUNF.
DUNF,
right,
that's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
More than DUNF, it was Lalit Front.
Right.
Because there was
exactly.
a different
right.
thing.
Yeah.
So on that basis, there were slot for 2 national lists that came about. Because they were very keen to get Mrs. Athuratmudi vote onto a common alliance.
Yeah.
That time really, Mrs. Shamala Pereira, who was there with Lalit all the way, was the one who was nominated, but she didn't want to stand. And as she was not keen, it was given to me. So I was accidental into politics. But then when I went into 97, 98 in politics, in parliament, I saw certain things happen in the commercial field, which if I was silent, I would have been just absolute hypocrite, waste of a nomination. So when it came to Sri Lankan, Air Lanka privatization, my good friend then, Gerard Fernando Pulle, took this completely out of context and finally brought it on a character assassination on me. So then I had to defend between myself and whether I be passive in that situation. Then only I thought I must make an impact. Then that led into a debate. Really is the time I really got pushed in because he asked, you came through a back door. If you want to really prove yourself, why don't you challenge me at the election and get one more? And I happened to get 150,000, which was 50,000 more than he did. That's how it got.
Over 17 years, that's a long time to be in politics. This is a question you are frequently asked. Perhaps you tire of answering it, but it is nevertheless a question resonant because it is based in fact, and it is the conundrum which the UNP finds itself today. Your grassroots mobilization is in disarray. There have been questions about the leadership. There does not seem to be the ability to generate or garner votes. Does this concern you that the party is in its position right now?
Well,
this is not really relation to the 8th of April, but just in general.
I appreciate that. It's not that our network is not moving down to the grassroots. It's simply that the result that comes out is not in line with what the people are expecting. In a matter of fact, the distortion in the campaigns. Now, the government, media is character assassinating on our party and certain people, leader, ourselves. As a result, there's a wrong distortion message that goes on. But that's not what is really on the field. The message gets there. But owing to the fact that the government has state media at their disposal, even their inactiveness is activated to the visibility that is shown on the two-state television.
So you are saying that the party's message is resonant with the people on the ground?
Almost definitely.
And why doesn't that translate into votes then?
That is where, even the last year presidential election, if you ask a person even today, 10 people, 8 will say they voted against Mahinda. That's just a anomaly. That doesn't happen after defeat. So there is a distortion. Where is that happen? You ask me a very straightforward question. I'll be lying if I say that I can get a top end to that particular one. But now we see with certain SPOs moving out and joining and giving us information, we seem to be finding exactly where the problem is.
So, arguably, you can create your own media. You can begin your own media. If you say that the government, and this has been a perennial problem, right? One would be, one has to acknowledge that under whichever government, state media has been a tool of that government.
Oh, certainly. In a matter of fact, it is the UMP that developed television, mobiles, and the trishaws. All three are working against us at the moment. The reason is misuse of all. I must say not the trishaws, but certainly that state media. and the mobiles. I mean, you have the Director General of Telecommunication Authority, who basically is one party do what they want, and not the others.
Would the UNP consider its own media? I mean, broadcasting or what?
Certainly, and as long as there is sense of independence, that is there. If we take, assuming we get a station, we run the station, and then after being very vociferous or very independent in our opinion, and they suddenly say, "I'm sorry, this is against the national interest," and they close because you are at the beck and call of the Minister of Media. So if that happens, then there's no continuity.
You're the chairperson of the Foreign Affairs. I mean, you in recent media interviews have raised very serious questions about Sri Lanka's foreign policy. In fact, in a recent media interview, you said we don't have a foreign policy,
Absolutely.
a coherent one at that. Moving forward, where do you see, in a more general sense, how should Sri Lanka align itself in terms of a foreign policy? Many commentators, for example, even with government, have said that we can't be what we were during war, and that we have to refashion, rebrand, rethink our strategies. As the chairperson, one would think that you have an opinion in this regard.
Certainly, I think that's one of the most important things. And this is what many government chauvinistic politicians are taking out of context. At this particular moment, Sri Lanka needs to be friendly with all. And that doesn't mean that you have got to be at the beck and call of them. But certainly we need to ensure that we get friendly nations come to our assistance.
Who, Ravi, would be a friendly nation?
If I may put it the other way, at this particular moment, you asked a very important one. There is coherent foreign policy. I would say there is no coherent, not even a temporary foreign policy that is on. You look at the United States of America. They say that they are two-timing. You get to India. They say they are not assisting enough. You look at the European Union. The statement in the last week's paper headline, European Union jealous of Sri Lanka. You get to Japan. They say Japan is meddling into internal affairs. End of the day, what are we left with? We are left with the Bolivias, the Irans, the Myanmars, Libyas, which they feel very comfortable because that's the way of life, or the birds of feather flock together. Now, on that basis, we lose the labor GSP. Where is the support that comes from our friends? You have the US that are willing to give a free trade agreement, or at least once again assistance in certain export-oriented items. They say, "I'm sorry, you get your house into order." You look at India, you're basically saying that here is a situation of Indian-Sri Lankan free trade agreement is being not put to place because China has invaded into the system. So you don't have a coherent, consistent pro-Sri Lankan type of a foreign policy.
Does it frustrate you that what you are saying right now may be different to what the voter in the South may understand in terms of foreign policy?
I would tend to agree with your question. Yes, it frustrates because it is a situation like we have ability without power, they have power without ability. So when that message that is chauvinistically translated, saying these guys are dancing to the American tune, these guys are the European Union's tune, end of the day, what are we doing? If you lose the labor GSP, we lost 400,000 jobs. Now tell me who is going to substitute that?
But is that message going to the people, you feel?
It doesn't. Because even the guy who's going to lose the job doesn't feel that. That's the problem in free trade zone. You have the people coming from the South, and they're the ones who vote most.
That does beg the question as to what you do as a party and what platform you stand on. Right?
Well, this is where the distortion takes place. My feeling is not that the message is not going down. The actual result that comes out of the election is the distorted factor. Because you look at the southern election, it was a huge difference between the previous election. And that is what really led to a rethinking at the particular presidential election. Everybody, surveys, 10 surveys, all 10 said there was a change. Immaterial who it was, there was a change required. Now that same thing goes on, and you have a huge difference, 1.8 million, which is unbelievable. Now I'm not saying for sour grapes or just because it has happened, but I'm just taking a context in its proper place.
Last week we had a guest who articulated the point of view of the UNF. I think it's a public point of view in that should you come into power, that General Sarath Fonseca will be released. Do you think that that's something that resonates with those who will be going into these elections? Do they want to see the general release? Do they not want to see justice take place insofar as the court of law taking its
most definitely?
Yeah.
Sarath Silva, I mean, it is the UNF, the only two parties that can basically get Sarath Fonseca out. Either the SLFP or the UMP. SLFP is governing. They don't want to do it, get